When Fate Takes Control. Chapter 1. The Fall. Maya Johnson's heart pounded so hard she could hear it echoing in her ears as she stared at the man lying unconscious at her feet. Blood trickled from a small cut on his forehead, staining the pristine marble floor of the elevator. Her interview folder had fallen open, papers scattered everywhere. The emergency stop button glowed red, the elevator frozen between the lobby and the second floor of Horizon Technologies' gleaming headquarters. She had only bumped into him. How had everything gone so wrong so fast? Her dream job interview was scheduled to start in exactly 12 minutes, and now she was trapped in an elevator with an unconscious stranger who might need medical attention. Maya's hands trembled as she knelt beside him, her perfectly pressed interview suit now wrinkled as she gently touched his shoulder. "Sir? Can you hear me?" The stranger was dressed in an expensive charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. His strong jawline was covered with a neatly trimmed beard, and despite the circumstances, Maya couldn't help noticing how handsome he was. But that didn't matter now. What mattered was that he wasn't waking up, and her future hung in a delicate balance. She reached for her phone to call for help, but found no signal in the stopped elevator. The emergency phone wasn't working either. Panic began to rise in her chest. After 6 months of unemployment, countless applications, and 4 rounds of interviews, she had finally made it to the final interview for the marketing director position at Horizon Technologies. This job would change everything for her, allow her to finally pay off her mother's medical bills, move out of her tiny apartment, and start building the life she had put on hold for so long. "Please wake up," she pleaded, gently patting his face. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to bump into you." What had even happened? One moment she had been checking her resume one last time, stepping into the elevator without looking, then feeling herself collide with someone. There had been a startled cry, the sound of a head hitting the wall, and then the thud of a body hitting the floor. In her panic, she had hit the emergency stop button instead of the door open button. The man groaned softly, his eyelids fluttering. Relief washed over Maya, quickly replaced by a new worry. What if he was angry? What if he sued her? She couldn't afford a lawyer. The weight of her responsibility, her mother's care, her mounting debts, her dwindling savings pressed down on her shoulders. "What happened?" the man murmured, his voice deep and disoriented. "I'm so sorry, sir," Maya said quickly. "I wasn't looking where I was going, and we bumped into each other. You hit your head and passed out for a minute." His dark eyes focused on her face, confusion giving way to something Maya couldn't quite identify. He stared at her for what felt like an eternity before slowly sitting up, wincing slightly. "How long was I out?" he asked, touching the small cut on his forehead. "Just a minute or 2, Maya replied, frantically gathering her scattered papers. "I've tried calling for help, but there's no signal. The emergency phone isn't working either." The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone that looked like it might have cost as much as her laptop. "Michael Prescott," he said, extending his other hand to her. Maya hesitated before shaking it. "Maya Johnson." "Well, Maya Johnson, it seems we're stuck here for the moment," Michael said, pressing a button on his phone. Immediately a voice responded. "Mr. Prescott, is everything all right?" "The elevator's stuck, James." "I'm fine, just a small incident. Can you get maintenance to get us out of here? And reschedule my 10 o'clock. "Right away, sir." Maya's stomach dropped. "Excuse me, did you say reschedule your 10 o'clock? I have an interview at 10 with the CEO of Horizon Technologies. I can't miss it, it's my final round." Michael wiped the blood from his forehead with a monogrammed handkerchief, his expression unreadable. "An interview with the CEO? Are you sure about that?" "Yes, positive. For the marketing director position," Maya said, her voice growing smaller with each word. "I've been through 4 rounds already. This is my final interview with Mr. Prescott himself." A slow smile spread across Michael's face, transforming his features from merely handsome to breathtaking. Maya Johnson, the candidate from Apex Media with the brilliant campaign proposal for our healthcare division. Maya's eyes widened. How do you? I'm Michael Prescott, he said simply, CEO of Horizon Technologies, and it seems our interview is starting a bit earlier than planned, though not quite how I expected. The world seemed to stop spinning for a moment as Maya tried to process what was happening. This man, the one she had knocked unconscious, the one with blood on his forehead, the one sitting on the floor of a stopped elevator, was her potential new boss, the man who held her future in his hands. The interview she had prepared for weeks for was now happening in the most disastrous way possible. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Prescott. I never," she stammered, horrified. "Please, call me Michael," he said, his eyes never leaving her face. "And perhaps you can help me up? I think I might need a minute before I try standing on my own." Maya quickly offered her hand, and as their fingers touched, she felt a strange jolt of electricity run through her. She attributed it to nerves, to the sheer panic of the situation. But when Michael stood, still holding her hand a moment longer than necessary, she wasn't so sure. Their eyes met, and for a split second, everything else faded away: the stopped elevator, the scattered papers, the upcoming interview, her financial worries. All that existed was the warmth of his hand and the intensity in his eyes. The elevator jerked suddenly, breaking the moment. The lights flickered back to full brightness, and the display indicated they were moving again. Maya quickly released his hand and stepped back, desperately trying to regain her composure. "It seems we're rescued," Michael said, straightening his tie. "But I think I might need medical attention before our interview." "Of course," Maya said quickly. "We can reschedule. I completely understand." "No need," Michael replied, his eyes still fixed on her face with an intensity that made her heart race for reasons she didn't want to examine. "I'm not letting you go just yet, Maya Johnson. I think fate has thrown us together for a reason, and I'm very curious to find out why." The elevator doors opened to reveal a worried-looking security team and a medical professional. As Michael was led away, he turned back to Maya with a smile that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. "My office. 1 hour. Don't be late." And just like that, Maya knew her life was about to change forever, though she had no idea just how much. Chapter 2. First Impressions. Exactly 58 minutes later, Maya stood outside the imposing double doors of the CEO's office on the top floor of Horizon Technologies. She had spent the past hour in a nearby bathroom, trying to fix her appearance and calm her racing thoughts. Her dark brown skin now glowed with a light sheen of nervous sweat, despite her best efforts with paper towels. She had managed to smooth out most of the wrinkles in her navy blue suit, and her naturally curly hair was pulled back into a neat bun. But nothing could calm the storm in her mind. She had knocked the CEO unconscious, in an elevator, on the day of her final interview. The receptionist glanced up from her desk. "Ms. Johnson, Mr. Prescott is ready for you now." Taking a deep breath, Maya pushed open the door and stepped into a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Michael Prescott sat behind a massive desk, a small bandage now covering the cut on his forehead. When he looked up and saw her, something flickered in his eye, something that made Maya's stomach flip in a way that had nothing to do with interview anxiety. "Maya," he said, standing to greet her, "please come in." "Mr. Prescott," she replied formally, trying to maintain a professional distance. "I want to apologize again for what happened in the elevator. I hope you're feeling better." "Just a small cut," he said, gesturing to the bandage. "The doctor says I'm fine. No concussion, not even a headache. Please sit down." Maya perched on the edge of a leather chair, clutching her folder of materials. She had practiced this interview countless times, had prepared answers for every possible question. but none of her preparation had covered what to do when you've already assaulted your potential employer. "So," Michael said, leaning back in his chair, "let's forget the elevator incident for now. Tell me why you want to work at Horizon Technologies." Grateful for the familiar question, Maya launched into her prepared answer, explaining her passion for innovative marketing strategies and her admiration for Horizon's commitment to ethical technology. As she spoke, she could feel herself relaxing slightly, falling into the rhythm of the interview. But something was different. Michael wasn't looking at her the way interviewers usually did. There was no critical assessment. Instead, he watched her with undisguised fascination, as if every word she spoke revealed something extraordinary about her. "Your campaign proposal for our healthcare division was remarkable," he said when she finished. "The team was particularly impressed by your focus on accessibility and community engagement." "Thank you," Maya said, surprised by the praise. "I believe technology should serve everyone, not just those who can afford the latest innovations." "I couldn't agree more," Michael replied. "That's always been my vision for Horizon. Technology that bridges gaps rather than creating them." The interview continued, but it felt increasingly like a conversation between colleagues rather than an employer evaluating a candidate. Michael asked thoughtful questions about her previous work, her approach to leadership, her long-term career goals. And Maya found herself responding with a candor she rarely showed in professional settings, drawn out by his genuine interest and the strange connection that seemed to hum between them. "You mentioned in your application that you took a year off between jobs to care for a family member," Michael said, glancing at her resume. "Would you mind telling me about that?" Maya hesitated. This was the gap in her resume that she usually tried to minimize, knowing how employers viewed breaks in employment. "My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer," she said quietly. "She needed someone with her for treatments, and I'm her only family. It wasn't really a choice." Michael's expression softened. "How is she now?" "In remission," Maya said with a small smile. 6 months cancer-free." "I'm glad to hear that," Michael said, and the sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. "My father died of lung cancer when I was in college. I understand what that battle is like." For a moment, they sat in shared understanding, the professional veneer dropping away to reveal something more human, more vulnerable. Maya felt seen in a way she rarely did in professional settings, not as a collection of skills and experiences on a resume, but as a whole person with a life and struggles and strength. "I have to admit something," Michael said suddenly, breaking the silence. "The hiring committee already made their decision yesterday. This interview was just a formality." Maya's heart sank. Had she come all this way, through all those rounds, only to learn the position was already filled? And after the elevator disaster, she couldn't even say she was surprised. "I see," she said, trying to keep the disappointment from her voice. "Well, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me anyway." "No, you misunderstand," Michael said quickly. "They recommended hiring you. Unanimously." Relief flooded through Maya, so powerful she almost felt dizzy with it. "So, the position is yours, if you want it," Michael finished for her. "Though after our elevator encounter, I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to work somewhere with less dangerous transportation options." Maya laughed, the tension of the morning finally breaking. "I think I can manage the risk." "Good," Michael said, his smile warming his entire face. "Because I have a feeling you're going to bring something special to Horizon, Maya Johnson, something we've been missing." He stood and extended his hand across the desk. "Welcome to the team." As Maya shook his hand, that same electric feeling shot through her again, stronger this time. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Something unspoken passed between them. Something that had nothing to do with jobs or interviews or professional boundaries. Michael cleared his throat and released her hand. "You'll start Monday?" HR will send all the paperwork to your email today. Monday sounds perfect, Maya replied, hoping he couldn't hear the slight tremor in her voice. As she gathered her things to leave, Michael walked her to the door. I'm looking forward to working with you, Maya. Likewise, Mr. Prescott. Michael, he corrected gently. We're colleagues now. Michael, she repeated, the name feeling strangely intimate on her lips. She walked out of his office feeling like she was floating, the job offer a dream come true after months of struggle. But as she rode the elevator back down to the lobby carefully this time, watching where she was going, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something more significant than a new job had just begun. Something unexpected and potentially life-changing. What she didn't know was that up in his office, Michael Prescott stood at the window, watching her exit the building, unable to explain even to himself why meeting Maya Johnson felt like finding something he hadn't realized he was missing. Chapter 3. New Beginnings. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of excitement and anxiety that had Maya changing her outfit 3 times before settling on a professional black dress with a teal blazer. Her mother, Elaine, watched from the doorway of their small apartment, amused by her daughter's nervousness. You already got the job, baby, Elaine reminded her. You don't need to impress anyone today. First impressions matter, Mom, Maya replied, adjusting her blazer in the mirror. And technically, my first impression involved knocking the CEO unconscious, so I need this second one to be perfect, Elaine chuckled, shaking her head. Only her daughter could turn a disaster into an opportunity. Well, you look beautiful. That company is lucky to have you. Maya turned to hug her mother, breathing in the familiar scent of cocoa butter and the faint antiseptic smell that still clung to her from her hospital stays. Elaine was thinner than she used to be, her once plump cheeks now slightly hollowed, but her eyes were bright and clear, the eyes of a survivor. I'll be home late, Maya said, grabbing her new leather portfolio, a splurge she had allowed herself to celebrate the job offer. First day and all. Don't wait up. Bring me all the gossip, Elaine called after her as Maya hurried out the door. The Horizon Technologies building looked even more impressive than it had during her interviews. The glass and steel structure seemed to touch the clouds, a physical manifestation of the company's ambition. Maya took a deep breath before walking through the revolving doors, reminding herself that she belonged here now. She had earned this. At the reception desk, a security guard checked her ID and handed her a temporary badge. Ms. Johnson, someone from HR will be down to get you in a minute. Maya nodded, glancing around the busy lobby. Monday morning energy filled the space, people rushing to elevators, clutching coffee cups, greeting colleagues. She wondered if any of them would soon be her friends, her team, her support network in this new chapter of her life. Maya Johnson? She turned to see a young woman with a bright smile approaching her. I'm Zoe from HR. Welcome to Horizon. I'll be helping you get settled today. The morning passed in a blur of paperwork, system setups, and introductions. By lunchtime, Maya's head was spinning with new names and faces, company policies, and the location of everything from the coffee machine to the emergency exits. Zoe had just left her at her new office, an actual office with a door and a window, not a cubicle, when a knock interrupted her attempt to organize her desk. Getting settled in? Maya looked up to see Michael Prescott leaning against her doorframe, his presence instantly filling the small space. He looked even more handsome than she remembered, in a light gray suit that accentuated his broad shoulders. The small cut on his forehead was barely visible now. Mr. Prescott, I mean Michael. Maya corrected herself quickly. Yes, just trying to figure out where everything goes. I remember my first day, he said, stepping into her office. I was so nervous I spilled coffee all over my desk before I'd even logged into my computer. Maya laughed, finding it hard to imagine the confident man before her ever being nervous about anything. At least you didn't assault anyone. True, Michael said with a grin. You've set a high bar for memorable first meetings. There it was again, that strange electricity between them. A current that made the air feel charged. Maya busied herself straightening papers that didn't need straightening. I actually came by to invite you to lunch, Michael continued. I try to take all new directors out on their first day. Company tradition. Oh, Maya said, surprised. That's very thoughtful. Unless you already have plans? He asked, suddenly looking uncertain. No plans, Maya assured him. Lunch sounds great. Michael smiled, relief evident in his expression. Excellent. There's a bistro around the corner that's quiet enough for conversation. Meet you in the lobby in 10 minutes? After he left, Maya quickly touched up her lipstick and smoothed her hair, telling herself it was normal professional courtesy to want to look presentable for lunch with the CEO, nothing more. But the flutter in her stomach as she rode the elevator down to the lobby told a different story. The bistro was indeed quiet and elegant, with private booths and soft lighting that created an intimate atmosphere despite it being the middle of the day. As they settled into a corner booth, Maya couldn't help noticing how many of the staff greeted Michael by name. You come here often? She asked after they ordered. Too often, probably, Michael admitted. When you work the hours I do, cooking at home isn't always practical. I know that feeling, Maya said. During my mom's treatment, I think we survived entirely on takeout and hospital cafeteria food. Michael's expression grew serious. How is she doing now? Your mother? Better every day, Maya said, warmth filling her voice. The doctors are optimistic. It sounds like that runs in the family, Michael observed. Their conversation flowed easily, moving from family to work to their respective backgrounds. Maya learned that Michael had built Horizon from a small tech startup in his garage to the industry leader it was today. He spoke with passion about his vision for technology that improved lives, about the responsibility that came with innovation. That's what impressed me about your marketing proposal, he told her as they shared a dessert. You understood that it's not just about selling products, it's about connecting people with tools that can genuinely help them. That's always been my approach, Maya said. Marketing shouldn't be about tricking people into buying things they don't need. It should be about helping them find solutions they didn't know existed. Michael's eyes remained fixed on her face as she spoke. That same look of fascination he had shown during her interview. You know, when the hiring committee recommended you, they focused on your experience, your education, but they missed what makes you truly exceptional. And what's that? Maya asked, her voice softer than she intended. Your heart, Michael said simply. You care, not just about success or advancement, but about people. The compliment touched Maya deeply, more meaningful than praise for her skills or accomplishments. Before she could respond, Michael's phone buzzed with a message. I'm sorry, he said, glancing at it. Emergency meeting with the product team. I have to head back. Of course, Maya said, trying not to show her disappointment that their lunch was ending. As they walked back to the office, Michael surprised her by asking, Do you have dinner plans tonight? Just leftovers and unpacking some more boxes at home, Maya admitted. I recently moved to be closer to the office. Would you consider joining me for dinner instead? Michael asked, then quickly added, To discuss your first day and your initial thoughts on our marketing strategy. I value fresh perspectives. Maya hesitated, aware that dinner with the CEO on her first day might raise eyebrows. But the professional justifications seemed reasonable, and she couldn't deny she enjoyed his company. That sounds helpful, she said carefully. As long as it's a working dinner. Absolutely, Michael agreed, though something in his eyes suggested he might have preferred a different answer. I'll have my assistant send you the details. As they parted ways in the lobby, Maya couldn't help wondering if she was imagining the lingering look Michael gave her before turning toward the executive elevator, and she definitely couldn't explain the slight disappointment she felt at clarifying their dinner was strictly professional. Back in her new office, Maya tried to focus on setting up her email and reviewing team files, but her thoughts kept drifting to Michael, to his genuine interest in her ideas, his passionate vision for the company, the way his eyes crinkled slightly when he smiled. She reminded herself firmly that he was her boss, that mixing business with pleasure was never wise, that she had worked too hard for this opportunity to complicate it with inappropriate feelings. But as the afternoon wore on, Maya found herself glancing at the clock more often than necessary, counting down the hours until dinner with a man who had gone from stranger to boss to something undefinable in the space of 4 days. And despite all her rational arguments against it, she couldn't deny the simple truth that she was looking forward to seeing him again. What she didn't know was that 20 floors above her, Michael Prescott was having just as much trouble concentrating on his work, his thoughts repeatedly returning to the remarkable woman who had literally crashed into his life. Chapter 4. Crossing Lines. The restaurant Michael had chosen for dinner was far more upscale than the lunch betrothed kind of place, with no prices on the menu and sommeliers who appeared silently at your elbow. Maya felt slightly underdressed in her work clothes, but Michael had assured her she looked perfect when he picked her up in his sleek black car. That had been the first surprise of the evening, that he had insisted on driving her himself rather than sending a car. "No sense in both of us driving separately," he'd said when he called to tell her he was waiting outside her apartment building. Now, seated across from him at a corner table with a spectacular view of the city lights, Maya couldn't help feeling that this dinner was veering away from strictly professional territory. "So," Michael said after they had ordered, "how was the rest of your first day?" "Overwhelming but exciting," Maya admitted. "I spent most of the afternoon reviewing the current marketing strategies and getting to know my team virtually. They seem talented." "They are," Michael agreed. "But they've been stuck in the same patterns for too long. That's why we needed someone like you, someone with fresh ideas and a different perspective." The conversation flowed naturally from work topics to more personal ones. Maya found herself telling Michael about growing up as the only child of a single mother, about her college years working multiple jobs to afford tuition, about her dreams of someday starting her own marketing consultancy. In turn, Michael shared stories of Horizon's early days, the failures and near bankruptcies before success, the mentors who had guided him, and the personal cost of building a company, including a divorce 5 years earlier. "She said I was married to Horizon," he explained, swirling the wine in his glass. "And she wasn't wrong. Building something from nothing requires sacrifice." "Was it worth it?" Maya asked. Michael considered the question seriously. "Professionally, yes. Personally, success means little if you have no one to share it with." The vulnerability in his admission touched something in Maya. Here was one of the most successful men in the tech industry, admitting to loneliness, to regret. "It's never too late to find balance," she said gently. "Maybe you're right," he replied, his gaze so intense that Maya had to look away. By the time dessert arrived, Maya had to acknowledge to herself that this dinner felt nothing like a business meeting and everything like a date. The realization should have alarmed her. He was her boss, after all, but instead, she found herself relaxing into the connection between them, enjoying his company too much to maintain professional distance. "Can I ask you something personal?" Michael said as their plates were cleared away. "That depends on the question," Maya replied with a small smile. "What happened with your last relationship? A woman as remarkable as you, I find it hard to believe you're single." Maya laughed softly. "Who says I'm single? Are you?" Michael countered, his expression suddenly serious. "Yes," Maya admitted. "My last relationship ended about a year ago. Jason was. Supportive at first when my mom got sick, but as the months went on and I had less time for him, he got frustrated. He said he needed someone who could put him first. She shrugged. I couldn't be that person, not then. He sounds like a fool, Michael said, surprising her with the heat in his voice. Anyone would be lucky to have someone with your loyalty and strength in their life. The intensity of his words hung in the air between them. This was definitely not professional territory anymore. Michael, Maya began carefully, I need to ask, what is this dinner really about? Because it's starting to feel less like a work discussion and more like a date? He finished for her when she hesitated. Would that be so terrible? Maya took a deep breath. You're my boss. I just started today. There are 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea. I know, Michael acknowledged. Believe me, I've listed them all to myself over the past 4 days. But I can't stop thinking about you, Maya. From the moment you crashed into my life, quite literally something changed. I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I've never felt this kind of immediate connection with anyone before. His honesty left her speechless. Part of her wanted to retreat to safe professional boundaries, to protect the job she had worked so hard to get. But another part, a part that grew stronger with every minute in his company, wanted to explore whatever this connection between them might become. I don't know what to say, she finally admitted. Say you feel it too, Michael urged quietly. This connection between us. Tell me I'm not imagining it. Maya looked into his eyes and knew she couldn't lean no to him, not to herself. I feel it too, she whispered. But that doesn't make it a good idea. Relief and joy transformed Michael's face at her admission. Maybe not, he agreed. But sometimes the best things in life aren't planned or sensible or by the book. The drive back to Maya's apartment was filled with a new tension, the tension of acknowledged attraction, of possibilities hanging in the balance. When Michael pulled up outside her building, neither of them moved to get out of the car immediately. I had a wonderful time tonight, Maya said, breaking the silence. So did I, Michael replied. More than I can express. He turned to face her, his expression conflicted. I want to kiss you, he admitted. But I won't, not yet. Not until we figure out what this means for both of us. Maya nodded, both disappointed and relieved. That's probably wise. I've never been known for my wisdom when it comes to matters of the heart, Michael said with a rueful smile. As Maya got out of the car, Michael rolled down the window. Maya, he called softly. Whatever happens between us, your job is secure. I want you to know that. You were hired because you're exceptional at what you do, not because I feel this connection with you. Thank you for saying that, Maya said, touched by his reassurance. Good night, Michael. Good night, Maya. She watched his car drive away, her emotions a whirlwind of excitement, confusion, and something deeper that she wasn't ready to name. As she entered her apartment, her mother looked up from the couch where she was watching television. You're glowing, Elaine observed. Good first day? It was. Interesting, Maya replied, unable to keep a small smile from her lips. Her mother hummed knowingly. Interesting enough to put that look on your face? I haven't seen you smile like that in a long time. Maya sank down beside her mother on the couch. I think I might be in trouble, Mom. The good kind or the bad kind? I'm not sure yet, Maya admitted. But I have a feeling my life is about to get a lot more complicated. The best things usually are, Elaine said, patting her daughter's hand. Just be careful with your heart, baby. You've always given it too freely. Later that night, as Maya lay in bed unable to sleep, her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. I know I should wait. Be patient. Take things slow. But I can't stop thinking about you. This is my personal number. If you feel the same way I do, if you want to explore whatever this is between us, call me anytime. No pressure, no expectations, just an open door, Michael. Maya stared at the message for a long time, her finger hovering over the reply button. Finally, she typed, "I can't stop thinking about you either. But I need time. This is all happening so fast. And there's so much at stake. Good night, Michael." His response came seconds later. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Sweet dreams, Maya." With a smile she couldn't suppress, Maya set her phone aside and closed her eyes, wondering what tomorrow would bring, and if she was strong enough to resist the pull she felt toward Michael Prescotter, if she even wanted to. Chapter 5. Complications. 2 weeks into her new job, Maya had settled into a routine that both thrilled and exhausted her. Her days were filled with meetings, strategy sessions, and getting to know her team. She had already implemented several small changes that had been well received, proving to everyone that she deserved her position. But the biggest challenge wasn't the work, it was maintaining professional boundaries with Michael. True to his word, he had given her space, keeping their interactions at work strictly professional. But Maya caught him watching her in meetings sometimes, his eyes following her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. And occasionally, late at night, they would exchange text messages that danced along the edge of propriety, never explicitly crossing lines, but full of subtext and unspoken desire. "How was your presentation today?" he might text at 11 p.m. "Went well. The team is excited about the new direction," she would reply. "I knew you'd impress them. You impress me every day." And Maya would stare at those words, reading between the lines, wondering how long they could maintain this delicate balance. The gossip had already started, of course. Maya had overheard whispers in the break room, seen knowing glances when Michael stopped by her office. It didn't matter that nothing had actually happened between them. Perception was its own reality in a corporate environment. "You know he never takes other directors to lunch that often," her assistant Tara had commented casually one day after Michael had invited Maya to what had become their weekly lunch meeting. "We have a lot to discuss," Maya had replied neutrally. "The healthcare marketing rollout is complex." Tara had just raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. Now, as Maya prepared for an important presentation to the board about her first month's assessment and strategy recommendations, she tried to focus solely on the work. Her career had always come first, and this opportunity at Horizon was everything she had worked toward. She couldn't let her feelings for Michael, whatever they were, jeopardize that. A knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to see James, Michael's personal assistant, standing there with a small gift bag. "Mr. Prescott asked me to deliver this," he said, placing the bag on her desk. "For luck with your presentation today." After James left, Maya cautiously opened the bag to find a small velvet box inside. Her heart raced as she lifted the lid, relieved and touched to discover not jewelry. A small card read simply, "For signing your first major campaign approval. I believe in you, M." The thoughtfulness of the gift brought tears to Maya's eyes. It was professional enough to be appropriate, yet personal enough to show he had been paying attention when she mentioned her love of fine writing instruments during one of their lunches. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Too much?" Maya smiled and replied, "Perfect, thank you." She slipped the pen into her portfolio, drew a deep breath, and headed to the boardroom, determined to prove herself not just to Michael, but to everyone at Horizon. The presentation went even better than she had hoped. The board members asked challenging but engaged questions, and by the end, Maya could tell she had won over even the most skeptical among them. Michael remained professional throughout, treating her exactly as he would any other director, though she noticed his proud smile when the board unanimously approved her proposed strategy. As the meeting concluded and people began filing out, Michael touched her arm lightly. "Can you stay a moment?" Once they were alone in the boardroom, he turned to her with a smile that made her heart skip. "You were brilliant." "Thank you," Maya said, conscious of the warmth of his hand still lingering on her arm. The team did most of the work. I just pulled it together. Don't downplay your accomplishments, Michael said, moving closer. You've transformed our approach in just a few weeks. Everyone sees it. The pride in his voice made Maya flush with pleasure. This was what she had worked for: recognition of her talents, validation of her ideas. And yet, the way Michael was looking at her now had nothing to do with professional admiration. Maya, he said softly, his voice dropping to a near whisper, I've respected your request for space. I've tried to keep things professional. She should step back. She should remind him of all the reasons this was complicated. She should protect her career. Instead, Maya heard herself say, for me too. The admission hung in the air between them, changing everything. Michael took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. Have dinner with me tonight, he said. Not as your boss. Not to discuss work. Just as a man who can't stop thinking about you. Maya hesitated, aware they were standing on the edge of a precipice. Once they took this step, there would be no going back to simple professional boundaries. People are already talking, she said quietly. Let them talk, Michael replied. I don't care what anyone thinks except you. I do care, Maya admitted. I've worked so hard to be taken seriously. I don't want people thinking I got this position for any reason other than my abilities. Michael nodded, understanding in his eyes. Then we'll be discreet. We'll figure it out together. He reached for her hand, his fingers gently intertwining with hers. Just don't ask me to pretend I don't feel this connection between us. The touch of his hand sent warmth spreading through Maya's body. She knew she should pull away, maintain professional distance, but the truth was, she didn't want to. Okay, she said finally. Dinner tonight. The smile that lit up Michael's face was worth every risk, every complication. He squeezed her hand once before releasing it. I'll pick you up at 8, he said. Suddenly all business again as the boardroom door opened and his assistant poked his head in. Mr. Prescott, your next appointment is waiting. Thank you, James, Michael replied smoothly. Ms. Johnson and I were just finishing up. He turned back to Maya with a perfectly professional nod. Excellent presentation. We'll discuss implementation details later. As Maya gathered her materials and walked out of the boardroom, she caught James giving her a speculative look. The assistant's expression was impossible to read, but Maya had the distinct impression he knew exactly what had transpired in that room and what it meant. Back in her office, Maya tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to the evening ahead. Was she making a terrible mistake? Or was she denying herself something potentially wonderful out of fear? Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. How did the big presentation go? Maya smiled and replied, Great. Board approved everything. That's my girl coming home to celebrate? Maya hesitated before typing, Actually, I have dinner plans tonight. 3 dots appeared immediately, followed by, Work dinner or the kind that puts that smile on your face? The second kind. About time. Wear the blue dress. Maya laughed out loud. Her mother had always been her biggest supporter and had worried about Maya putting her life on hold during the illness. The fact that Elaine was encouraging this was both reassuring and terrifying. At 7:30, Maya stood in front of her mirror, smoothing the fabric of the navy blue dress that hugged her curves perfectly. She had left her hair down, the natural curls framing her face, and applied just enough makeup to enhance her features without looking overdone. She looked good, and she knew it, but the nervous flutter in her stomach had nothing to do with her appearance and everything to do with the step she was about to take. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. I'm outside. No rush. Maya took one last look in the mirror, picked up her purse, and whispered to herself, No turning back now. Chapter 6. Falling. The restaurant Michael had chosen was an hour outside the city, far from Horizon's offices and anyone who might recognize them. It was a small, intimate place, overlooking the ocean, with just a handful of tables and warm, flickering candlelight that cast a golden glow on Maya's skin. "This is beautiful," she said as they were seated at a corner table with a spectacular view of waves crashing against moonlit rocks below. "How did you find it?" "My grandparents lived near here," Michael explained. "I used to spend summers with them as a kid. This place was special to them. They celebrated their anniversary here every year for over 5 decades. "That's amazing," Maya said, touched that he had brought her somewhere with such personal significance. "Are they still?" "No," Michael said with a sad smile. "They both passed within months of each other about 10 years ago. That's what I remember, how, even at the end, they still looked at each other like they were the only 2 people in the world." Something in his voice, a vulnerability she rarely saw in the confident CEO, made Maya reach across the table and take his hand. "They sound wonderful." "They were," Michael agreed, his fingers gently squeezing hers. "My grandfather used to say that when you find the person who makes your heart skip a beat, you hold on tight and never let go." The weight of his words hung between them. This wasn't casual flirtation. There was intention behind his choice of restaurant, his stories, the way he looked at her across the table. "Michael," Maya began carefully, "I need to be honest. This suicide terrifies me. Not just because of work, but because I've never felt this kind of connection with someone so quickly. It doesn't make sense." "Does it have to?" Michael asked, his thumb tracing circles on her palm in a way that made it hard for Maya to concentrate. "Some of the best things in life defy logic. Like starting a tech company in a garage when everyone tells you it's doomed to fail." His eyes held hers. "Or falling for someone you literally bumped into in an elevator." "Is that what's happening?" Maya asked softly. "We're falling?" "I think I started falling the moment you knelt beside me with papers scattered everywhere, more worried about my health than your interview," Michael admitted. "I've never met anyone like you, Maya. Someone so brilliant and driven, yet so genuinely compassionate." "You barely know me," Maya reminded him, though her racing heart suggested otherwise. "I know enough," Michael replied. "I know you put your career on hold to care for your mother without hesitation or resentment. I know you light up when you talk about making technology accessible to communities that have been left behind. I know you work harder than anyone in that building but still take time to learn every team member's name and family details." "You've been paying attention," Maya said, surprised by how much he had noticed in just a few weeks. "From the first moment," Michael confirmed, "and I'd like to keep learning everything about you, if you'll let me." The vulnerability and openness in his expression took Maya's breath away. Here was one of the most powerful men in the tech industry, laying his heart bare with no guarantee she would reciprocate. Their dinner arrived, momentarily breaking the intensity of the moment. As they ate, the conversation shifted to lighter topics: childhood memories, favorite books, travel dreams. Maya found herself relaxing, laughing more than she had in months, discovering a side of Michael far removed from the polished CEO persona he presented at work. "You never talk about your parents," Maya observed as they shared a dessert. "Just your grandparents." A shadow crossed Michael's face. "My father was Horizon's first investor. He believed in me when no one else did. But success came with a price. He worked himself to death, literally. Heart attack at his desk. My mother never recovered from losing him. She became a shell of herself, existing but not really living." "I'm so sorry," Maya said, understanding now the shadows she sometimes glimpsed behind his smile. "It taught me something important," Michael continued. "Success means nothing if you sacrifice everything else for it. For years, I made the same mistake my father did, putting Horizon above all else. My marriage failed because of it." "And what does matter?" Maya asked, holding her breath for his answer. "This," Michael said simply, reaching across the table to take her hand again. "Connection, joy, sharing your life with someone who understands both your strengths and vulnerabilities. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of meaningful glances and lingering touches. By the time they left the restaurant, something fundamental had shifted between them. What had been attraction and curiosity was deepening into something more significant, more dangerous. On the drive back to the city, Maya leaned her head against the passenger window, watching the moonlight on the ocean as they wound along the coastal road. Michael reached over and took her hand, and they rode in comfortable silence, both processing the emotions of the evening. When he pulled up outside her apartment building, Maya knew they had reached another crossroads. The proper thing would be to thank him for dinner, say goodnight, and go inside alone. But as Michael walked her to her door, proper was the furthest thing from her mind. "Thank you for tonight," she said, her keys in her hand, but making no move to use them. It was perfect. It was, Michael agreed, his eyes never leaving her face. The hallway light cast shadows that accentuated his strong features, making him look both vulnerable and irresistible. "Maya," he whispered, stepping closer until bare inches separated them. "I've been thinking about kissing you since the moment I saw you tonight." "What's stopping you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "I promised myself I'd follow your lead," Michael said, "that I wouldn't push for more than you're ready to give." Maya looked up at him, at this man who had stormed into her life and turned everything upside down in the span of a few weeks. She knew all the reasons to be cautious, all the potential complications, but in that moment, none of them mattered. "Michael," she said softly, "kiss me." He didn't need to be told twice. His hands came up to frame her face, so gentle it made her heart ache. And then his lips were on hers, tentative at first, then growing more confident as she responded. The kiss deepened, igniting something in Maya that she had never felt before, a hunger, a need, a sense of coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Michael rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to do that since the moment I opened my eyes and saw you kneeling next to me in that elevator." Maya laughed softly. "Even with a possible concussion, you were thinking about kissing me?" "Especially then," Michael said with a grin. "I thought maybe I'd died and gone to heaven." She reached up to touch his face, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingertips. "This is crazy, you know that, right? We're breaking every rule in the corporate handbook." "Some rules are meant to be broken," Michael murmured, turning his head to press a kiss to her palm. "But if you want to stop, if you want to keep things professional, just say the word. Your career is important to me, Maya. I don't want to jeopardize that." The sincerity in his voice touched her deeply. He was offering her an out, putting her needs before his desires. "I don't want to stop," Maya admitted, "but I do want to be careful. For both our sakes. We'll figure it out together," Michael promised, brushing a curl away from her face. He kissed her once more, softly this time, before reluctantly stepping back. "I should go. You have that early strategy meeting tomorrow." Maya smiled, touched that he remembered her schedule. "Good night, Michael." "Good night, Maya." He waited until she was safely inside before turning to leave. Maya leaned against her closed door, fingers touching her lips where she could still feel his kiss. She knew tomorrow would bring complications, maintaining professionalism at work while harboring these feelings, navigating the gossip and speculation, figuring out what this relationship meant for her career. But for tonight, alone in the darkness of her apartment, Maya allowed herself to acknowledge the truth she had been fighting for weeks. She was falling in love with Michael Prescott, and no amount of corporate policies or professional boundaries could stop it from happening. Chapter 7. Whispers. 3 months into her position at Horizon Technologies, Maya had transformed the marketing department and exceeded every expectation. Her healthcare campaign had launched to rave reviews, gaining national attention and earning Horizon praise for its focus on accessibility and community engagement. Internally, her team's morale had skyrocketed, and other departments had begun seeking her input on their projects. By all professional measures, Maya Johnson was a resounding success. But success came with scrutiny, and Maya was increasingly aware of the whispers that followed her through the hallways. For the past 2 months, she and Michael had been careful keeping their relationship strictly professional at work, meeting only at out-of-the-way restaurants or at Maya's apartment, never arriving or leaving together. But secrets had a way of revealing themselves, especially when they involved the CEO. "They're saying he created the position specifically for you," Tara told her one morning, closing Maya's office door behind her. The assistant had become a friend and ally, one of the few people Maya trusted in the increasingly political environment. "That's ridiculous," Maya replied, looking up from her computer. "The job was posted for months before I applied. Half the marketing directors in the city interviewed for it." "I know that," Tara said, perching on the edge of Maya's desk. "But the timing of your promotion to senior director after just 3 months is raising eyebrows. People talk, Maya." The promotion had been Michael's idea, but Maya had earned it. The numbers proved that. Still, the whispers stung, casting a shadow over her accomplishments. "Let them talk," Maya said with more confidence than she felt. "My work speaks for itself." But later that day, as she sat in the executive conference room waiting for the leadership meeting to begin, Maya couldn't help noticing the way conversations died down when she entered, the speculative glances from VPs who had initially welcomed her warmly. When Michael walked in, his eyes found hers immediately, a brief flicker of warmth before his professional mask slipped into place. They had gotten good at this dance, maintaining appropriate distance in public, while stealing moments of connection in private. But lately, Maya had begun to wonder if the cost was becoming too high. "Before we begin," Michael said as the meeting came to order, "I want to acknowledge the exceptional work of our marketing team under Maya's leadership. The healthcare campaign has exceeded projections by 30%, and we've received inquiries from 3 major hospital networks interested in partnering with us." A murmur of approval went around the table, but Maya caught the exchange of glances between the CFO and the operations director. The praise, meant to recognize her achievements, only fueled the speculation. After the meeting, James approached her in the hallway. "Ms. Johnson, do you have a moment?" Maya had always found Michael's assistant difficult to read, unfailingly polite but distant, loyal to Michael above all else. "Of course, James." He guided her to a quiet corner, his voice low. "I thought you should know that there's a board meeting tomorrow. It wasn't on the schedule." Maya frowned. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because your name came up in the agenda the board chair sent over," James replied, his expression giving nothing away. "And because, despite what you might think, I respect what you've done for this company." Before Maya could ask more questions, James was gone, leaving her with a knot of anxiety in her stomach. An unscheduled board meeting where her name was on the agenda could only mean trouble. That evening, Michael came to her apartment, bringing takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant. They had settled into a comfortable routine, spending 3 or 4 evenings a week together, talking for hours about everything from work to philosophy to their hopes for the future. Maya had never felt so connected to another person, so understood and accepted. But tonight, she couldn't shake her unease about the whispers, the glances, the mysterious board meeting. "Is something wrong?" Michael asked as they sat on her small balcony, the city lights spread out below them. "You've been distracted all evening?" Maya set down her wineglass. "James told me there's an unscheduled board meeting tomorrow. He said my name is on the agenda." Michael's expression changed. A flash of anger quickly controlled. "James shouldn't have told you that." "So it's true," Maya pressed. "What's going on, Michael?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Richard Daniels has been asking questions about your promotion." He's an old-school board member who thinks 3 months is too soon, regardless of results. And the fact that I'm sleeping with the CEO has nothing to do with his concerns? Maya asked, more sharply than she intended. He doesn't know about us, Michael said firmly. No one on the board does. But people are talking, Maya said. Tara told me there are rumors you created my position specifically for me. That's absurd, Michael said, frustration evident in his voice. You were hired before we even met. Your promotion was based entirely on your results. I know that, Maya said. You know that. But perception matters, especially in corporate politics. Michael reached across the table to take her hand. Maya, I can handle Richard and the board. Your job is secure. Is it? She asked quietly. Because right now, every accomplishment I've worked for is being questioned. People aren't seeing my work, they're seeing a woman who they think slept her way to the top. Pain flashed across Michael's face. Is that how you see it? Like I'm some kind of liability to your career? No, Maya said quickly, squeezing his hand. What we have is real, Michael. But the situation is complicated. We both knew that from the beginning. So what are you saying? Michael asked, vulnerability evident in his voice. That we should end this? Go back to being just boss and employee? The thought made Maya's chest tighten painfully. In just 3 months, Michael had become essential to her happiness, a partner who challenged and supported her in equal measure. The thought of losing him made everything else, the whispers, the politics, even her career ambitions seem suddenly less important. No, she said softly, that's not what I want at all. Relief washed over Michael's face. Then what do you want, Maya? It was a simple question with a complicated answer. What did she want? She wanted her relationship with Michael without the secrecy and whispers. She wanted her career success to be recognized on its own merits. She wanted not to have to choose between love and professional respect. I want us to find a way through this that doesn't compromise either of us, she said finally. I don't have all the answers, but I know I don't want to lose what we've built together. Michael's expression softened, and he brought her hand to his lips. We'll figure it out together, he promised. Starting with that board meeting tomorrow. Trust me, Maya. I won't let anyone diminish what you've accomplished. Later that night, as they lay tangled together in her bed, Maya tried to silence the doubts circling in her mind. She trusted Michael, believed in his commitment to her, but she also knew the corporate world well enough to understand that perception often trumped reality, and that even a CEO's power had limits when it came to changing entrenched attitudes. As Michael slept beside her, his arm protectively draped over her waist, Maya made a decision. Whatever happened in that board meeting tomorrow, she would stand on her own merits. She had earned her place at Horizon Technologies, and she would fight to ensure everyone recognized that not just for herself, but for every woman who might come after her. What she didn't know was that the board meeting would bring a challenge far greater than office gossip or questions about her promotion, a challenge that would test not only her professional resilience, but the very foundation of her relationship with Michael. Chapter 8. Storms. Maya spent the morning of the board meeting immersed in preparation for her team's presentation to a major potential client. She deliberately kept herself busy, refusing to dwell on what might be happening in the boardroom on the top floor. Michael had texted her before the meeting started. Don't worry, I've got this. Dinner tonight to celebrate? His confidence should have reassured her, but the knot of anxiety in Maya's stomach only tightened as the hours passed. By lunchtime, when she still hadn't heard anything, she found it impossible to concentrate on the client presentation. You look like you're waiting for a bomb to drop, Tara observed, bringing in a sandwich Maya had forgotten she'd ordered. That obvious, huh? Maya asked with a weak smile. Only to someone who knows you, Tara replied, closing the office door behind her. Maya nodded, unsurprised that Tara knew about it. Her assistant seemed to have an uncanny ability to know everything that happened at Horizon. "You know," Tara said carefully, "whatever they decide up there, it doesn't change who you are or what you've accomplished." The simple validation from her assistant nearly brought tears to Maya's eyes. "Thanks, Tara. That means a lot." "For what it's worth," Tara added as she turned to leave, "most of us down here in the trenches think you're the best thing that's happened to this company in years. And not just because you brought in free coffee Fridays." Maya laughed, grateful for the moment of lightness. But as the door closed behind Tara, her worry returned. What was taking so long? A meeting about her promotion concerns should have been brief. Either the board backed Michael's decision, or they didn't. At 3 o'clock, her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "My office, now." The brevity of the message sent a chill down Maya's spine. In all their communications, both professional and personal, Michael had never been this abrupt with her. Something was definitely wrong. As Maya rode the executive elevator to the top floor, she mentally prepared herself for bad news. Perhaps the board had overruled Michael on her promotion. Perhaps they had even insisted she be demoted back to her original position. It would be a professional setback, certainly, but not insurmountable. As long as she had Michael's support, they could weather this storm together. But when she entered his office, the expression on Michael's face told her this was something far more serious. "Close the door," he said, standing behind his desk, tension evident in every line of his body. Maya did as he asked, then turned to face him. "What happened?" "Richard Daniels brought photos to the board meeting," Michael said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Of us?" Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "Photos? From where?" "The restaurant by the coast. Us holding hands across the table, kissing outside your apartment building." Michael's jaw clenched. "He's had a private investigator following us for weeks." "Oh my God," Maya whispered, sinking into a chair as the implications hit her. "Why would he do that?" "Officially? Because he's concerned about corporate governance and potential conflicts of interest," Michael said bitterly. "Unofficially? Because he's been trying to push me out for years and he thinks he's finally found leverage." Maya felt sick. Their relationship, something so genuine and precious, had been reduced to corporate ammunition. What did the board say? Michael came around the desk to kneel in front of her, taking her hands in his. "They've given me an ultimatum. Either I end our relationship, or they'll launch a formal investigation into whether your hiring and promotion constituted an abuse of power." "But we weren't even together when I was hired," Maya protested. "I know that," Michael said gently, "but an investigation would mean public scrutiny, your qualifications and accomplishments questioned, your personal life exposed. It would be brutal, Maya." The reality of the situation crashed down on her. This wasn't just about office gossip anymore. This was her professional reputation, her career, her future. "And if you end our relationship?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Then the matter is closed," Michael said, his expression pained. "Your promotion stands. No investigation. Everything continues as normal." "Except for us," Maya said softly. "Except for us," Michael agreed, his voice breaking slightly. Maya pulled her hands away, standing up to pace the office as she tried to process everything. "So those are the only options? End our relationship or subject me to a humiliating investigation that could destroy my career?" Michael stood as well, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "There's a third option. I could resign." Maya stopped pacing, staring at him in shock. "Resign? From Horizon?" "It's just a company," Michael said, moving toward her. The declaration stunned Maya into silence. She knew how much Horizon meant to Michael. It was his life's work, his legacy. That he would even consider walking away from it for her was both incredibly moving and terrifying. "You can't do that," she said finally. "I won't let you sacrifice everything you've built." "Maya," Michael said, taking her face in his hands, Listen to me. Before you crashed into my life, Horizon was everything to me. I measured my worth by its success, poured every ounce of energy into making it grow. But these past months with you have shown me what I've been missing: connection, joy, a reason to come home at night other than to sleep before going back to work. Tears filled Maya's eyes at the raw emotion in his voice. Michael, I love you, he said simply. And if protecting you means walking away from Horizon, then that's what I'll do. The words Maya had been feeling but hadn't dared to say hung in the air between them. Love. Despite everything, the complications, the risks, the now very real consequences, they had fallen in love. I love you too, she whispered, the admission bringing both joy and pain. But I can't let you give up Horizon. There has to be another way. Michael pressed his forehead to hers, their breath mingling. We have until tomorrow morning to decide. The board is reconvening at 9. Then we have tonight to figure this out, Maya said, determination replacing her initial shock. Together. They left the office separately, agreeing to meet at Maya's apartment. The hours that followed were the most difficult of their relationship, a marathon conversation that stretched from dinner through the night, examining every possible scenario, every potential solution to their impossible situation. What if we went public? Maya suggested as midnight approached. Announced our relationship ourselves, made it clear it began after I was hired, showed the timeline of my achievements. The narrative would still be controlled by people like Richard, Michael said, pacing her small living room, and the investigation would be just as damaging regardless of the truth. What if I stepped down instead? Maya asked. Found another job? Absolutely not, Michael said firmly. You've worked too hard to get where you are. I won't let them push you out for something that has nothing to do with your performance. Around 2 in the morning, exhausted and no closer to a solution, they lay in Maya's bed, holding each other as if they might be torn apart at any moment. Maybe we should take a break, Maya said softly, the words painful to even consider. Just for a little while, until things settle down. I could prove myself beyond any doubt, and then later. Could you do that? Michael asked, his voice vulnerable in the darkness. Pretend we're nothing to each other? See me every day and act like what we have never existed? Maya thought about it honestly, about seeing Michael in meetings and keeping her distance, about going home alone each night knowing he was just a phone call away but untouchable. No, she admitted, I couldn't do that. Not now that I know what it feels like to love you. Then we're back where we started, Michael said, pulling her closer. 3 impossible choices. As dawn broke, casting soft light through the blinds, Maya stirred from a fitful sleep with sudden clarity. Michael, she said, sitting up, I know what we need to do. He blinked awake, immediately alert at the determination in her voice. What? We fight, Maya said simply. Not just for us, but for every couple who's faced this kind of judgment. We change the policy, not our relationship. Michael sat up beside her, intrigued. What are you thinking? Horizon has always positioned itself as a progressive company, right? Leading the way in technology but also in corporate culture. Maya's mind was racing now, the pieces falling into place. What if, instead of hiding our relationship or ending it, we use it to establish a new precedent? A transparent policy for workplace relationships that protects both the company and the employees. A recusal policy, Michael said, catching on quickly. I would recuse myself from all decisions regarding your employment, promotions, raises, project assignments. Exactly, Maya nodded. We disclose the relationship officially, establish clear boundaries, and have the board appoint an independent committee to oversee my department for the next review cycle. No secrets, no shadows, everything above board. Michael's eyes lit up with hope for the first time since the board meeting. It could work. Richard would fight it, but most of the other board members are reasonable. if we present it as Horizon taking a leadership position on a common corporate issue. Then we control the narrative, Maya finished. Instead of a scandal. Michael pulled her into his arms, kissing her with renewed passion. Have I told you lately that you're brilliant? Not in the last few hours, Maya teased, her heart lighter than it had been since James had first mentioned the board meeting. They spent the remaining hours before the 9 o'clock meeting drafting their proposal, anticipating objections, preparing counter-arguments. It wasn't a guaranteed win. Richard Daniels and his allies would still resist, but it gave them a fighting chance. As they prepared to leave for the office, Michael took Maya's hands in his. Whatever happens today, I want you to know that meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I will never regret a single moment of our time together. Maya squeezed his hands, drawing strength from his touch. We're going to get through this, she promised. What neither of them realized was that the coming board meeting would test their love and resolve in ways they couldn't have imagined, and that the aftermath would change Horizon Technologies forever. Chapter 9. Standoff. The Horizon Technologies boardroom was intimidatingly large, designed to showcase the company's success and innovation with its floor-to-ceiling windows, state-of-the-art technology, and massive mahogany table that seated 20. Maya had been in this room many times for presentations and leadership meetings, but never like this, never as the subject of a board deliberation that could determine both her professional future and her personal happiness. Michael had entered first, as protocol demanded, while Maya waited in a small anteroom, reviewing their strategy one last time. When James appeared at the door to escort her in, she took a deep breath and straightened her spine. Whatever happened in this room, she would face it with dignity and strength. The board members fell silent as Maya entered. 12 men and women, most in their 50s and 60s, regarded her with expressions ranging from sympathy to cool assessment to outright hostility. Richard Daniels, a silver-haired man with cold eyes and a perpetual frown, didn't bother to hide his disdain as he watched her take her seat at the far end of the table directly opposite Michael. Ms. Johnson, Patricia Way, the board chair, began formally. Thank you for joining us this morning. I believe you understand why you've been asked to attend? Yes, Maya replied, her voice steadier than she felt. I understand that concerns have been raised about my relationship with Mr. Prescott and its potential impact on company governance. That's putting it mildly, Richard Daniels interjected. What we're discussing is a clear conflict of interest and possibly an abuse of power. Patricia shot him a quelling look before turning back to Maya. Mr. Prescott has informed us that he wishes to present an alternative to the options the board outlined yesterday. We've agreed to hear it before making our final decision. Maya nodded, grateful for Patricia's professional tone. The board chair had always been fair in their previous interactions, and Maya hoped that fairness would extend to this unprecedented situation. Michael stood, projecting the confidence that had built Horizon from a startup to a major player in the tech industry. Before I present our proposal, I want to clarify some facts. First, my relationship with Ms. Johnson began after she was hired, not before. Her initial employment was based solely on her qualifications and interview performance, as the hiring committee can confirm. He paused, making eye contact with each board member. Second, while I did approve Ms. Johnson's promotion, it was based on quantifiable results that exceeded every benchmark we established. Her team's performance speaks for itself, as does the market response to her campaigns. We've heard this defense already, Richard cut in impatiently. The fact remains that you've been carrying on a secret relationship with a direct report, compromising the integrity of our corporate governance. Which brings me to our proposal, Michael continued, refusing to be baited. Rather than ending our relationship or subjecting Ms. Johnson to an unnecessary investigation, we propose establishing a comprehensive relationship disclosure policy that would apply to all employees at Horizon, including myself. Maya watched the board members' reactions as Michael outlined their plan: a formal recusal policy for workplace relationships, an independent committee to oversee employment decisions for any involved parties, and a commitment to transparency that would protect both the company and its employees. "This isn't just about Ms. Johnson and me," Michael emphasized. "It's about acknowledging the reality that workplace relationships happen and creating a framework to manage them ethically. Horizon has always led the way in progressive corporate policies. This is an opportunity to set a new standard." When Michael finished, Patricia Way turned to Maya. "Ms. Johnson, do you have anything to add?" Maya stood, feeling all eyes on her. This was her moment to fight not just for her relationship with Michael, but for her professional dignity. "I understand the concerns about conflicts of interest," she began, "but what I don't understand is why my work, my achievements, and my contributions to this company are suddenly worth less because of who I love." She made eye contact with each board member as she continued. "In the 3 months since my promotion, my team has increased marketing engagement by 42%. Our healthcare campaign has brought in more new clients than any initiative in the past 5 years. I've reduced department costs while improving outcomes across every metric." Maya took a deep breath before delivering her final point. "None of that changed when Richard Daniels showed you those photos yesterday. My abilities didn't diminish. My results didn't disappear. The only thing that changed was your perception of how I achieved them." A silence fell over the boardroom. Even Richard Daniels seemed momentarily at a loss for words. "The policy Mr. Prescott outlined gives you the oversight you need to ensure all decisions about my employment are fair and unbiased," Maya concluded. "But it also recognizes that I shouldn't have to choose between my career and my personal life when my performance speaks for itself." Patricia Way nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you, Ms. Johnson. If you could step outside while the board deliberates." The next 2 hours were the longest of Maya's life. She sat in the anteroom, alternating between reviewing work emails to distract herself and staring at the closed boardroom door, imagining the arguments happening behind it. James brought her coffee and a sympathetic smile but offered no insights into the proceedings. Finally, the door opened and Patricia Way appeared. "Ms. Johnson, we're ready for you now." Maya's legs felt unsteady as she rose and followed the board chair back into the room. Michael's face gave nothing away as she took her seat once more. Patricia cleared her throat. "After considerable discussion, the board has reached a decision. We have voted to adopt a modified version of the relationship disclosure policy proposed by Mr. Prescott, with certain additional safeguards." Maya's heart leapt with hope, but she kept her expression neutral as Patricia continued. "Specifically, Mr. Prescott will recuse himself from all decisions regarding your employment, compensation, and project assignments. An independent committee comprised of 3 board members will oversee your department's performance reviews and budget allocations for a period of 1 year." Richard Daniels' scowl made it clear he had not supported this decision. "Additionally," Patricia added, "the board has decided that your recent promotion will be subject to a 6-month review rather than the standard annual review to verify that performance metrics continue to be met." It wasn't a complete victory. The extra scrutiny would be challenging, but it was a far better outcome than Maya had feared. "We expect both of you to maintain absolute professionalism in the workplace," Patricia concluded firmly. "Any perception of favoritism or inappropriate behavior could result in this decision being reconsidered. Is that understood?" "Completely," Michael replied. "Yes, absolutely," Maya agreed. As the meeting adjourned, Maya caught Michael's eye across the table. The relief and joy in his expression mirrored her own, though both maintained their professional composure until they were well away from the boardroom. Hours later, in the privacy of Michael's penthouse overlooking the city, they finally allowed themselves to celebrate. "You were amazing in there," Michael said, handing Maya a glass of champagne as they stood on his balcony. "The way you stood up for yourself. For use, I've never been prouder to be with someone." "I was terrified," Maya admitted. "But I kept thinking about what we talked about last night, that this wasn't just about us. It was about changing the conversation around workplace relationships, especially for women." Michael clinked his glass against hers. "To changing the conversation. And to surviving Richard Daniels," Maya added with a small smile. Michael's expression darkened slightly. "He won't give up easily. The extra scrutiny, the 6-month review, those were his concessions. He'll be watching for any mistake, any slip." "Then we won't give him any," Maya said with determination. "We'll be so professional at work that no one could find fault, and we'll make sure my department's results are so impressive that even Richard can't question my promotion." "That's my girl," Michael said softly, setting down his glass to pull her into his arms. As Maya settled into his embrace, looking out at the city lights, she felt a profound sense of peace despite the obstacles that still lay ahead. They had faced their first major test as a couple, and emerged stronger for it. Whatever came next, they would face it together. What Maya didn't realize was that Richard Daniels' opposition was just the beginning. The coming months would bring challenges from unexpected quarters, testing not just their resolve to maintain professional boundaries at work, but the very foundation of trust their relationship was built on. And the greatest threat would come not from a hostile board member, but from Maya's own growing doubts about whether she could ever truly step out of Michael's shadow. Chapter 10. Ever After. 6 months had passed since the board meeting that had nearly torn Maya and Michael apart. 6 months of careful navigation through corporate politics, of maintaining scrupulous professionalism at work while building their relationship in private, of proving over and over that Maya's success was earned through her own merit. It hadn't been easy. Richard Daniels had watched Maya's every move, scrutinized her every decision, questioned her every success. But she had met each challenge with grace and determination, producing results that even her harshest critic couldn't dismiss. Her healthcare marketing initiative had become a case study in industry publications. Her team's morale and productivity led the company. Her innovative community outreach programs had earned Horizon praise from groups that had previously been skeptical of tech companies. And through it all, Michael had been her rock, supporting her privately, while carefully maintaining appropriate distance professionally. They had learned to compartmentalize, to be CEO and marketing director during office hours, and simply Michael and Maya after work. The balancing act had strengthened their relationship in unexpected ways, forcing them to communicate more clearly, to respect boundaries, to appreciate the time they had together. Today marked a significant milestone. Maya's 6-month review with the independent committee, the review that would determine whether her promotion would be permanent or rescinded. "You've got this," Michael said that morning as they prepared for work in his penthouse, which had gradually become their shared home, though Maya maintained her apartment for appearances. "Your numbers speak for themselves." "I know," Maya said, adjusting his tie with practiced ease. "But Richard will be looking for any excuse to prove his point." "Richard is outnumbered," Michael reminded her. "Patricia and the others have seen your work. They know what you've accomplished." Maya nodded, drawing strength from his confidence in her. In these past months, their love had deepened from passionate new romance to something more enduring, a partnership founded on mutual respect, shared values, and unwavering support. The review meeting was scheduled for 3 o'clock. Maya spent the morning finalizing her presentation, gathering data that documented her department's achievements since her promotion. By lunchtime, she felt as prepared as she could be, though the butterflies in her stomach hadn't subsided. "Eat something," Tara urged, placing a sandwich on Maya's desk. You need your strength for this afternoon." Maya smiled gratefully at her assistant, who had become a true friend and ally during these challenging months. "What would I do without you?" "Forget to eat and pass out during important meetings," Tara replied matter-of-factly. "Now eat. I'll hold your calls." At precisely 3 o'clock, Maya entered the small conference room where the 3-member committee waited: Patricia Way, board chair; Thomas Grant, CFO; and inevitably, Richard Daniels. Michael was conspicuously absent, as required by the recusal policy. "Ms. Johnson," Patricia greeted her warmly. For the next hour, Maya presented her department's accomplishments, answering questions and addressing concerns with confident professionalism. Thomas seemed genuinely impressed by the financial impacts of her initiatives. Patricia nodded approvingly at the metrics showing improved team performance and client satisfaction. Only Richard remained stone-faced, occasionally interjecting with pointed questions clearly designed to undermine her confidence. "These community engagement numbers are impressive," he acknowledged grudgingly, "but how much of this success is due to Mr. Prescott's connections and influence rather than your own abilities?" Maya had anticipated this line of attack. "Mr. Prescott has been scrupulous about maintaining appropriate boundaries as required by our disclosure policy. All strategic decisions and client relationships have been developed by my team, with documentation available for your review." Richard frowned but moved on to his next challenge. "And what about the Peterson account? I understand there were some issues with the rollout." "There were initial technical difficulties," Maya confirmed calmly, "but my team worked closely with engineering to resolve them within 24 hours, and the client has expressed satisfaction with our response. In fact, they've increased their contract for next year by 30%. On and on it went, with Richard probing for weaknesses while Maya calmly addressed each concern with data and examples. "Thank you, Ms. Johnson," Patricia said. "The committee will deliberate and inform you of our decision by end of day." Maya left the conference room feeling cautiously optimistic. She had done everything possible to prove her worth, to demonstrate that her relationship with Michael had not influenced her professional performance or opportunities. Back in her office, she tried to focus on work while waiting for the committee's decision, but concentration proved impossible. When her phone buzzed with a text from Michael, "How did it go?" she replied simply, "As well as it could have." At 5:30, just as Maya was considering calling it a day, Patricia Way appeared at her office door. "Do you have a moment?" the board chair asked. "Of course," Maya replied, gesturing to the chairs opposite her desk. Her heart pounded as Patricia took a seat. "The committee has reached a unanimous decision," Patricia began, her expression giving nothing away. Unanimous? That meant even Richard had voted with the others. Maya's pulse quickened. "Your promotion to Senior Marketing Director has been confirmed as permanent," Patricia continued, finally allowing a small smile. "Your performance has exceeded all benchmarks, and the committee agrees that you have more than earned your position." Relief and pride washed over Maya in equal measure. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. "I appreciate the committee's thorough review and confidence in my abilities." "It wasn't just a confirmation," Patricia added. "The committee is also recommending you for the newly created position of Chief Marketing Officer, reporting directly to the executive leadership team rather than to Mr. Prescott. This would remove the remaining concerns about chain of command and recognize your contributions at the highest level." Maya stared at Patricia in shock. Chief Marketing Officer? A C-suite position? It was beyond anything she had dared to hope for. "I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Say you'll consider it," Patricia replied. "The board will be voting on the creation of the position next week." Even Richard supported the recommendation. though I suspect that was more about separating you from Michael's direct authority than recognizing your talents." She smiled wryly. "Politics makes strange bedfellows, as they say." After Patricia left, Maya sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. Not only had she overcome the scrutiny and skepticism, but she had impressed even her harshest critic enough to earn a promotion to the executive team. She wanted to share the news with Michael immediately, but tonight was his monthly dinner with his grandmother, the one commitment he never missed. Maya had met the formidable Eleanor Prescott several times now, and understood both Michael's devotion to her and why these dinners were their special time together. Instead, Maya texted her mother, "Big news! Can I come over?" Elaine's reply was immediate, "Absolutely, bringing out the good ice cream." An hour later, Maya sat at her mother's kitchen table, recounting the committee meeting and Patricia's surprising announcement. "Chief Marketing Officer," Elaine repeated, shaking her head in wonder. "My baby girl in the C-suite. Your father would have been so proud." "Do you think I should take it?" Maya asked, voicing the question that had been rolling around in her mind since Patricia's visit. "Why wouldn't you?" Elaine asked, genuinely puzzled. Maya stirred her melting ice cream thoughtfully. "It would mean more responsibility, longer hours." "Don't you dare use me as an excuse," Elaine said firmly. "I'm doing fine now, and you know it. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. There's also Michael," Maya admitted. "This promotion would mean I'm no longer his subordinate. The board's concerns about our relationship would be resolved." "And that's a problem because?" Elaine prompted. "It's not a problem," Maya said quickly. "It's just I don't want anyone thinking I got this position because of him, that I'm sleeping my way to the C-suite." Elaine reached across the table to take her daughter's hand. "Maya Johnson, you listen to me. You earned this. Every step of the way. You've proven yourself based on your own merits, your own hard work, your own brilliance. Anyone who doesn't see that isn't worth worrying about," including Richard Daniels. Maya laughed, squeezing her mother's hand gratefully. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise," Elaine replied with a grin. "You were just too busy to notice." Later that night, as Maya let herself into her apartment still, maintained for appearances though she spent most nights at Michael's phone rang with his familiar ringtone. "How was dinner with Eleanor?" she asked by way of greeting. "Enlightening," Michael replied, an odd note in his voice. "She asked when I was going to propose to you." Maya nearly dropped the phone. "She what?" "Apparently we're not as discreet as we thought," Michael said, amusement now evident in his tone. "She says she knew from the first time I mentioned your name that you were special. Something about the way my voice changed when I talked about you." "And what did you tell her?" Maya asked, her heart racing. "I told her I was waiting for the right moment," Michael said softly. "And then she gave me this." "Gave you what?" Maya asked, confused. "Her engagement ring," Michael replied. "The one my grandfather gave her 63 years ago. The one she promised would go to the woman I truly loved." Maya sank onto her couch, overwhelmed. "Michael, I'm not proposing over the phone," he assured her quickly. "But I wanted you to know that when I don't, it won't be a spur-of-the-moment decision. It will be because I'm certain, Maya, certain that what we have is once-in-a-lifetime love." Tears filled Maya's eyes. "I got some news today, too," she said when she could trust her voice. "The committee approved my promotion, and they're recommending me for a new position, Chief Marketing Officer." "Maya!" Michael exclaimed. "That's incredible. I knew you'd impress them, but C-suite already? You're extraordinary." His genuine excitement for her success, without a hint of reservation about her no longer reporting to him, only confirmed what Maya already knew, that Michael loved her completely, supported her unconditionally, and celebrated her achievements as his own. "Patricia says even Richard voted for it," Maya added with a laugh. though apparently that was more about separating me from your authority than acknowledging my talents. Whatever his reasons, he made the right call for once, Michael said. You deserve this, Maya. No one has worked harder or achieved more. There's something else, Maya said, suddenly serious. As CMO, I'd be on the executive leadership team. Equal footing, no chain of command issues. Meaning no more hiding, Michael concluded, understanding immediately. No more separate arrivals, no more pretending we're just colleagues. No more wondering if my success is attributed to my abilities or my relationship, Maya added softly. The policy worked, Michael. We changed the conversation, just like we said we would. So, Chief Marketing Officer Johnson, Michael said, love evident in every word. How about I pick you up in 20 minutes and we celebrate properly? I'll be ready, Maya promised. 1 year to the day after Maya had literally crashed into Michael's life in that elevator, she stood in the same building, this time on the executive floor, watching as her name was added to the leadership wall. Maya Johnson, Chief Marketing Officer. Beside her, Michael beamed with pride, his hand openly holding hers in full view of the assembled staff. The whispers had faded months ago, replaced by respect for what Maya and Michael had accomplished not just professionally, but in changing corporate culture. Their relationship disclosure policy had been adopted by 3 other major tech companies. Their story had been featured in business publications as an example of how to navigate workplace relationships ethically. And tonight, at the restaurant overlooking the ocean where they had first acknowledged their feelings for each other, Michael would finally give her Eleanor's ring. But Maya didn't know that yet. She only knew that as she stood there, surrounded by colleagues who had become friends, her hand firmly clasped in Michael's, she had found the balance she'd been seeking all along: success, on her own terms, and love that supported. Happy anniversary, Michael whispered, pressing a kiss to her temple in a rare public display of affection. Happy beginning, Maya replied, squeezing his hand and looking toward the future they would build together, where neither of them would ever have to let go.